Well, welcome back to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Tanner O'Brien. I am a senior partner here at ActionCOACH in Central Texas. Today, I have Reda Hicks here with me today, the owner of GotSpot. Very excited to be sitting down, having some conversation. We're going to be talking about just business in general, journey into business ownership, entrepreneurship, challenges, successes, all the fun stuff that comes along with that. So very excited for our conversation today. If this is your first time on the channel, make sure to like and subscribe to ensure that you get notifications whenever we drop new conversations just like this one. But these are really fun way to connect, all that kind of stuff. So Rita, thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to kick it over to you. Why don't you share just a little bit about GotSpot and your background? Tell us a little bit more, and we'll just start the conversation there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Reda Hicks, and I am the CEO of GotSpot. It is a piece of technology for connecting businesses that have space and businesses that need space, but only occasionally, so that they can grow together, leveraging each other as resources. And how I landed working in GotSpot really was because I'm a problem solver, and I saw a couple of problems in my own communities that I thought could solve each other with the right alignment. By background, I'm an attorney. I've been practicing where I live in Houston for 17 years. It's been a minute. And originally I was a law firm attorney, and I worked in a lot of bankruptcies. And so I would see all these amazing businesses, good, solid local Main Street businesses, that they would fail because they had a couple of bad months of sales in a row, and then they couldn't cover their overhead. And that's a really terrible reason for a community to lose a good local business. But, as an attorney, there are only a certain number of tools in your arsenal to be able to solve that problem. But then fast forward a couple of years, I met my husband and I married into the military community. He's active duty Army. He's retired now. But that put me in contact with military spouses and introduced me to this entire other segment of our sort of broader business community. And that's virtual entrepreneurs, because these are men and women that are having to move every 2 years with the military, which means they can never have their own storefront, but they are makers and consultants and teachers and coaches and professionals and all of these things, where they mostly work from home, but sometimes they just need space to be able to do something amazing. And so to me, that looked like a population that needs a new way to bring foot traffic into their space, and a population that needs space they can access for opportunities, and two kinds of businesses that could really help each other grow and lift up whole local communities. So I started GotSpot really to solve that problem. What does it look like to build community that helps sort of in a circle of business growth?
Oh, that is so cool. So I've got a couple questions, and I think the
I'm
first one
ready.
is, so what does that look like if I'm a business owner that makes a bunch of sense? I need to find space. What does that look like? Is it more kind of longer term? Are they shorter term? Kind of what does that process look like in terms of finding space, especially in that demographic of that, there might be moving every couple years, that sort of thing. Share a little bit more on the insights of that. That's very intriguing.
Yeah, well, so my business model is day rental. And so it's somebody who really does have this micro term that they really need space to borrow. So that's, a baker that really needs to borrow a commercial kitchen to make a massive batch for a farmer's market they've just gotten entree into. Or it's somebody who is coming to town and needs access to space to be able to teach some kind of workshop or seminar. Or it's somebody who is just getting into making something and can't afford their own warehousing, but will pay to borrow it from like a logistics company, right? So for me, it's a lot of thoughtful matchmaking between what exists in the built environment that's maybe not being fully utilized, that kind of business should be able to make more money off of, and then making that available to all of these businesses of all kinds, just to be able to borrow it exactly when they need it, which is a little different from the models that exists now. Even with things like co-working, usually that's a subscription to a very specific kind of space. And there is a need for that, certainly in local business communities. But there's also this massive treasure trove of great local space that's never being fully utilized. And to unlock the value of that for baby businesses or businesses that need to stay mobile, it's really important for those businesses, but it's also new revenue for all of those brick and mortar businesses that are also trying to stay alive and grow and maybe even expand.
Oh, that is so cool. So for businesses that are looking for space, we'll start on that one.
Mhm.
what's the how do I get into that process? If I was looking for space, is it, we call and we have a conversation? Is it digital? Kind of what does that process look like to find space?
Um, it's a couple of different user journeys because we're still pretty early on. There's a website someone can go to in the cities that we're already live in. We're live in Houston, we're live in Wichita Falls. We're looking at launching in Round Rock sort of in the second half of this year. And for those cities, you can actually go to the website and search, and the user experience feels a lot like the Airbnbs and the Verbos and the other kind of micro rental sites that a lot of people are familiar with. But I field questions all the time, particularly from my military spouse phone tree, where people are calling me and saying, I'm going to, Atlanta for this weekend. I need this kind of space for this kind of activity. Can you help me? And then I do provide a little bit of a concierge service to folks who call me directly, who call GotSpot directly. And the hope is that over time, the technology will expand to enough cities that people will mostly be able to find what they want online. But some of it is a little bit of necessary handholding on my end, because a lot of conventional businesses sometimes need guidance about how to make their space available for other people to borrow. So if you are letting somebody borrow an extra office or a conference room, in your office space, that's pretty turnkey. That's pretty easy. But if you're a restaurant and you want to make your commercial kitchen available for that cottage baker to borrow on the day that you're closed, that's a little bit different. You're talking about specialized equipment. You're talking about specific insurance. And so sometimes the concierge service for me is important to help the space side of the equation understand what they need to put in place to make sure they're protected.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I guess the kind of that same question on the other end for business that has the space and kind of needs to look at leveraging more of that. Same basic process. Do they just reach out and kind of say, hey, I've got the space. This is let's talk that through, or kind of what's the process for that side of the equation?
So a spot holder, that's what I call them. They can go to the website, make an account, and start creating listings right away. And some kinds of space can pretty much do that on their own, like event spaces, for example, contact me because they might have really great wedding traffic, but then they would love to fill their weekday lunches with business activity. They don't need a lot of help from me because they already know how they need to price their space. They already know what their terms and conditions are, so they can just go to the platform and fill it out. Same with somebody who's like making an extra office available. Typically, that's something that can be handled without my help, but if it is a more specialized space, or if it's someone that with a large footprint with multiple spaces, or somebody who has key concerns about how to protect their property, we can sit down and walk through what kinds of terms they need to put in place. And then that just becomes part of the listing that's created for them on my site. And then in either case, though, the interface is such that that person has a dashboard they can look at, they can make changes to the hours or changes to the rates. They can turn pieces of their footprint on and off based on when they want traffic in their space and when they don't. Because my goal ultimately is to help that person bring in as much or as little additional traffic as they need to in order to help their own bottom line. And what I have found is for the folks that opt into that, ultimately, they also wind up really enjoying getting to know and help other growing businesses. And so they wind up deciding to do it more. And that's the goal, right? There's these repeated relationships that help businesses grow together. Because I think that's a little bit of the secret sauce in the business communities that are really thriving around the country, big and small. It's because businesses treat each other as resources.
So cool. I am like so excited on this conversation. We could probably sit here and talk for hours on the topic, but for those that are watching this, that own a business, that have space, if you're not doing something like this, go check this out, because this is, if you can start leveraging the fixed overhead costs that you have of a space, and now all of a sudden can have additional cash flow coming in from that, just massive. So super exciting. Love what you're doing. So for anyone that's watching it, I'll put link to the website and everything below. Make sure you check that out. But in the time that we have, I want to make sure that we also talk through a little bit on successes, challenges, things like that. Just your journey as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. So as you look kind of in your journey and transitioning and moving from law to also having business and that sort of thing, what have been kind of some of the call them pivotal roadblocks or challenges that you've had to overcome, maybe really major, maybe minor, but they had a big impact on your journey specifically. Do you have kind of one or two that you could share with us on how that changed your growth as a business owner and achieving where you are today?
Yeah, so I still practice, like keep a small practice on the side, and I also really love doing some mentorship in the legal space for small businesses in Houston. I have found a lot of people who start businesses, that's an area of the process that's scary to them that I can help with. And what's been really beautiful to me is that I've also found help in that same way with parts of learning how to grow a business that I have found scary. So I'm lucky because I came up in legal jobs that allowed me the opportunity to be really entrepreneurial. I came up in a boutique law firm where you kind of jumped in the deep end and learned how to swim. And then after that, I was at a really large logistics company where our legal team was very small and handled a whole lot more than just legal. We were in operations, we were in compliance, we were in all kinds of different spaces. And so I learned a lot that way. What I feel like I didn't know much of anything at all about when I decided I was going to start a tech company, it's actually tech. And that was probably the scariest part of my journey, is just getting really humble really fast about what I didn't know. So, and trying to figure out who are the right people to reach out to, even to gain the vocabulary I need to ask for what I need, because I'm very conversant, in the law, but when it comes to other pieces of business, maybe not so much. And so I think the first thing I had to learn was be really quick to say what you don't know. And that's embarrassing, but you just have to get over it. Sometimes it's embarrassing, but you have to get over it because it's the only way you can get to what you need. And the other thing is to when you have like had the chance to sit down and say, here's what I don't know, then the next thing is go find people who can help fill in those gaps for you, who can teach you the vocabulary so you can be conversant and ask for what you need, but also people who can help you hone the pieces of your business that maybe you could do by yourself, but it's better if somebody else can sort of help you and get on a sure footing. Relatedly, though, and I think the equally important lesson for me was slow and steady. And I think particularly in the startup spaces, which is where I'm cutting my teeth, there's a little bit of this like grind. You have to do things really quickly mentality. And what that results in, people throwing a lot of recommendations at you really quickly about all these tools that you need. But what I learned the hard way is, if you don't understand why you need those tools or how they work together or how they actually help your business run better, all you're doing is accumulating more cost and things that are going to sit on the shelf and things that are going to distract you from what your business actually needs. And so, one of the major mistakes I made up front was getting a whole lot of tools I didn't actually need. And so now when I talk to baby businesses, what I say is, you need slow and steady. If you can't explain how you do your business on, a piece of white paper where you can sketch it out, don't try and automate it with any kind of tool, right? Start figuring out what processes work. And then over time, it will become obvious which ones you need to replace with automation or with a person who's not you, who can do that job better. So I think, humility, figuring out what you don't know, finding the people who can help, and just being gradual, even when everything outside of you is pushing you to go faster, is those are the key things that I have learned so far in entrepreneurship.
That is gold right there. Yeah, I'm going to encourage everyone, go take this video, go back like the last 2 minutes and slow it down. Listen to that again. Really, really important, amazing learnings in entrepreneurial journey. So Rita, thank you for sharing that. And I think that those are very big nuggets. So let's talk a little bit on the success side quickly.
Yeah.
So looking at where you're at today, I think by really any true measurement, you've had success. And I'm curious, as you look at kind of your processes or your, what I call keys to success, kind of what you do consistently that makes you successful. They may be things that you borrowed from other people. They may have been things that you figured out on your own. But what would you say your current kind of keys to success are? Those things that you attribute your success to by doing consistently?
Yeah. So my biggest key is the network. And, I mentioned before, it can be really hard to ask for help. I think that's true for everyone. I think particularly for female founders I talk to, asking for help is really hard. For me, my instinct is it feels like an imposition, and I don't like to impose on people. And what I have had to learn is get over it. It's good to let people know what you're working on. It's good to let people know what you need, because then the things that you need come to you. But also because I'm the kind of person, I want to be helping other people. And when I'm saying what I need, people feel more comfortable telling me what they need. And then I know how I can help. And so what I have found is building those really rich mutual relationships with other business owners and using each other as resources and growing together has been really massive. And then the other thing that I think has been really important to me is just an understanding that there's no one straight line way to build a business. It does not exist. And there's no one right way to build a business. And so I have developed a little bit of a system where I do keep note of all of the various pieces of advice that come to me. But I also catalog them, right? Like, this is maybe good advice, but not for me. Maybe good advice, but not right now. This is great advice I should spend time on. This is advice that would waste my time. And this is advice that I'm going to tell people to avoid from now into infinity, because I think it's terrible advice. And I think it's so important for entrepreneurs, and it took me a while to get here, to give yourself permission to ignore some of the things people are telling you. Because the way they did it successfully might not be the way you do it successfully. And that's assuming the person giving you advice was successful in the same kind of journey that you're on. And so I think it's very good to be curious. It's very good to seek insight from other people. It's important, but it's also really important to always do a gut check with yourself about, like, does this feel like it fits where I am in my business right now? Does this feel like it would be helpful to me? Or is this something I should just put down for right now? And I think being intentional about it is important. Those are the network, sort of having a sifter for your advice. And then I think the other big one is not buying into the grind that we talked about a little bit earlier. I mean, the people I know who are the most successful are the ones who understand that a business is just part of life. It's not their purpose. Even people who are in purpose-driven businesses, the people who are the happiest and most joyful and the most successful are the ones who figure out how it fits in the overall picture of their lives. And I don't want to use the B word, because I don't actually think balance actually is a thing, but just kind of understanding that you can make space for all the things that are important in your life. And sometimes that might be your business is the most important thing on any given day, but often it's not. And it's okay to say it that way, because people that you go to for insight or investment or anything else who tell you otherwise, I don't think that they know what they're talking about.
Oh my goodness, that is beautiful. Beautiful. I absolutely love that and couldn't agree more. I do want to be, aware of how much time that we have here today. So I'm going to be kind of respectful on that. I've got one question that kind of, tails along that conversation on advice. And that's knowing what you know now, knowing kind of your system of managing advice that's being given. If you were to go back and give yourself at 18 years old one piece of advice, what would that piece be?
Oh, be curious. I came up in a pretty sheltered environment. I was the first person in my family to go to college, and I thought that there were only a couple of paths. Like, you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you're a teacher, and all of those things are good things. I wound up being a lawyer, so clearly I chose one of those paths. But the best piece of advice I got actually came from the counselor that visited with me in my first week of school as a freshman at the University of Texas. He said, "Where are you headed in your life?" And I said, "I think I'm headed to law school." And he said, "Okay, spend the next 4 years studying everything that you can, everything that you care about that's not the law, because you have time for that. But it's really important to chase any things that you're curious about and build that muscle of asking questions, asking curious questions, wanting to learn, because it will serve you for the rest of your life." And he was right. And I still follow that advice today.
That is phenomenal advice. I love that. So Rita, before we end on kind of the one question I love to end every interview on, before we get to that, how can others connect with you or learn more about GotSpot or any of the businesses that you're working through currently? Share us a little bit about what that looks like. This is a series about connection. So we want people to make connection and check out websites and all that kind of stuff. So where is the best place to find more information or connect with you personally?
Well, my name is spelled funny, so I'm easy to find. And all of the various things I'm involved in are on my LinkedIn. So that's one quick way to reach me. I check my DMs often. If you're interested in more about GotSpot, you can visit gotspotinc.com. And all my social handles are also GotSpot Inc. I do a little bit of organizational development consulting. So I sit around with a lot of businesses of varying sizes, for profit and nonprofit, and help them figure out how to run more efficiently. And so if that's of interest to you, you can find me. My information is on LinkedIn. But I just really appreciate the opportunity to come here and talk to you today. I love helping other businesses figure out how to grow. And so if you think that GotSpot would be a useful tool to you, please reach out. If you have questions about business in general, please reach out.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And Rita, to finish off the conversation, what is most inspiring to you today?
What's inspiring to me today is how many people I see in the communities around me genuinely invested in the other people around them. I think it's really easy to get really discouraged about what's going on in the world today, especially if you spend time in the headlines. And there's certainly plenty of room for improvement there. But when I just take a breath and look around at what's happening in my own community among the people I know who also care about their communities, it's magic. It really is. And so I think that's what's inspiring me today. And I just encourage everyone to be intentional about thinking about all the awesome that's happening around you and focus on that at least as much as we focus on those headlines.
Amazing. Rita, thank you so much for taking the time. It has been a true pleasure to chat with you, get to know a little bit more about your business. I know we could probably sit here and chat for another 30, 40 minutes if we really had the time. So thank you so much for being here today. And yes, just thank you so much.
Sure thing. Thank you for having me.